Shine bright up all night, we're never slowing down. Fall in love, drunk mistakes, we're bound to hit the ground. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only a day. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. Young blood made of gold, a mind you can't control. Running wild, can't calm down. My head is in the clouds. Gotta keep this feeling, keep on breathing, even if we're slipping away. So I close my eyes and lose myself now. Do it like it's only today. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this. We got a party for a lifetime. No, we ain't stopping for the sunrise. No, we don't care about the bad nights. And for a second I can feel like this. Make me feel like this.
Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. How's everyone doing today? Today's April 4th, 2024. It is 1:11 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. Thank you all for joining me. So, Jessie is in court. Jessie Vang is in court. And there is actually people taking the stand, from what I understand. And we're going to get right to it. Now, I will tell you, for the first few minutes of this, there is no video, but the video does come on after a few minutes. Let me see where it starts here. Yes, but while you guys are entering, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Let me find where it starts.
March 8th.
Here we go.
Crystal Lee is present as Hmong interpreter. Ms. Lee, if you could come back to the English channel so we can swear you in. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you shall correctly interpret between the court and the parties from, well, actually you're not interpreting for the parties, but that you shall correctly interpret from the English language to the Hmong language and from the Hmong language to the English language to the best of your ability, so help you God.
I will.
Thank you. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Crystal Lee, CrystalLee.
Thank you. You can go back into the interpretation channel, and just to clarify for the sake of the record,
You're swearing in
Attorney Bree, your
interpreter.
understanding is that Ms. Lee's services are for one of the victim's family members, correct?
That's correct, Judge.
And Attorney Hogan, that's your understanding as well?
It is.
There are some members in Jesse's family who cannot speak or understand English.
Client does not need a Hmong interpreter, correct?
Correct.
Matters on the calendar for preliminary hearing today. Attorney Hogan, what's the status?
Your Honor, we are prepared for the hearing this morning. I did want the court to address the motion that I filed. It should be document 26, filed March 18th. I think although I drafted that motion with respect to the original criminal complaint, the arguments are still applicable for the amended criminal complaint, asking that the state make more definite and certain as to the alleged neglectful conduct. If they're unable to, I believe that the criminal complaint is insufficient for purposes of the chronic neglect charge.
All right, which document did you say it was?
26.
Oh, there we go. All right, and Attorney LaBrie, then your response.
Judge, I think the amended complaint that was filed by the state on March 19th of 2024 addresses the concerns that are listed in the motion. And when a court looks at the criminal complaint, it must contain sufficient information together with reasonable inferences that there's probable cause of the crime. And at this point in the process, all reasonable inferences must go to the state. If there's equal inferences, the complaint is still sufficient. In the amended complaint, we have a narrow time frame. We're talking less than 20 days. Obviously, venue's been established. The victim was in the
Wait till this guy gets on the stand.
care of the defendant for that time period. There was his own admissions that the victim was specifically transferred to his care on February 12th of 2024. And the conduct while in that care involves multiple instances of these lengthy timeouts as are described, where the victim is asked to stand in a praying position for between 1 to 3 hours.
You mean torture?
Very challenging behavior for a victim of that age, not only physically, but emotionally, especially in that kind of position. And this was something that
Thank you,
was
Carla.
conducted on multiple days during that time period. The victim was also left alone, unsupervised in that time period, February 16th into the 17th, while specifically the 17th in the early morning hours, while the defendant as well as Ms. Bauer were away from the apartment. The victim is 3 years old and leaving a 3-year-old unattended for over an hour.
Yeah, leaving a 3-year-old attended for over an hour and making a 3-year-old stand 1 to 3 hours. It's for you generally, if they're in timeout, it's 1 minute per year. So he should have not been in timeout more than 3 minutes, not 3 hours.
Also would qualify as one of the neglectful acts. We also have other evidence listed in the complaint, not only the
That's as high as it goes,
the
hon.
cold water
I'm pretty sure it's as high as it
discipline,
goes.
fear tactics that were used, as well as the timeouts and being left alone. I think when you look at all inferences, the complaint is sufficient, and that's the motion to be denied.
In response to that, Attorney Hogan.
I stand by the arguments that I indicated in my motion.
As the court views the motion, I'll just address as it relates to the charge of child neglect. It indicates 6 elements. The child is not within the age of 18. I don't believe that's in dispute. The defendant was a person responsible for the welfare of the child. I don't think that's in dispute. the defendant through action and for reasons other than poverty failed to provide necessary care. I think the instances noted by
Hey, Cheryl, actually, they've already had parenting classes. They had to take them. Katrina had to take them a while back before she got her kids back.
Attorney LaBrie, as well as the alleged admission in the complaint by Mr. Vang that the child was in his care. He went to sleep and then the child, when he wakes up.
Parenting is something you have to, your heart is glad to do it. You're happy to do it. You want to do it. It's not give people all the classes in the world, you know.
Necessary care. The failure to provide seriously endangered the physical, mental, or emotional health of the child. The failure to provide was negligent, and the natural and probable consequences of the neglect would be death, great bodily harm, child sex offense, emotional damage, or bodily harm. I think for the reasons outlined by the conduct described by Attorney LaBrie, as well as the fact that Mr. Vang allegedly acknowledged that the child was in his care, he woke up, the child was gone, certainly rise to the sufficient level. So the court will deny that motion. What other motions did you want to take up prior to the preliminary hearing, Attorney Logan?
No other motions to take up.
All right. And your client wishes to proceed with the hearing then?
Yes.
All right. Attorney LaBrie, you can call your first witness.
Your Honor, the state would call Detective Herman.
All right.
There is a second witness, Lieutenant Glazer, who will be stepping out in the courtroom.
Sounds good. Detective, you please come to the witness stand here, remain standing, raise your right hand. Clerk will administer the oath.
Here we go.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Be seated. State your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Michael Herman, Herrmann.
Go ahead, Attorney LaBrie.
Detective Herman, how are you currently employed?
I'm a detective with the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been with the sheriff's office?
30 years,
And how long have you been a detective?
5 years.
Were you so employed on February 20th of 2024?
I was.
And on that date, did you respond to 3918 Mishcot Road, apartment number 102?
I did.
What municipality is that located in?
The city of Two Rivers.
Is that Manitowoc County, state of Wisconsin?
It is.
When you responded to that apartment, did you speak with a Jessie Vang?
I did.
And the person you know as Jessie Vang, is he present in court today?
He is.
Can you describe where he's seated and what he's wearing?
He is seated at the defense table between his counsel, wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Let the record reflect identification of the defendant.
So reflected.
Did you have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Vang on February 20th of 2024?
I did.
And initially, did you speak with him at his apartment?
I did.
When you initially spoke with him, what information did he tell you about the victim, child one?
He indicated that the child was in his care, and that on that morning, he had gone to bed and brought the child with him into his room, closed the door, and that he woke up again at 11 o'clock in the morning and the child was missing.
And when you spoke with him, he indicated that he was in the care of victim child one at that point in time, correct?
That is correct.
Did he give you time parameters as far as when he initially started caring for that child?
He did.
And what time period was that?
Mr. Vang picked up victim child one on February 12th in the city of Fond du Lac at a quick trip from the child's mother, Katrina Bauer,
And how long was he supposed to have the child?
until the following Friday, the 23rd.
This apartment on Mishcot Road, was that Mr. Vang's residence?
Yes,
And were you able during the investigation to ascertain the age of victim child one?
I was
How old was victim child one?
3 years old.
Amen, Jessie. Amen.
Did you have an opportunity to have a longer conversation with Mr. Vang at the Two Rivers Police Department?
I did.
Did you speak with him regarding victim child 1 and the purpose of the victim staying with him from February 12th through that February 23rd timeframe?
I did.
And what did he tell you about why the child was going to be there?
He had indicated that the child's mother was having difficulty with the child and the child's behaviors. An agreement was made between Mr. Vang and Ms. Bauer that
3-year-olds are not supposed to behave.
he would assist her with those behavioral issues. An agreement was made that the child's custody would be transferred to him for a period of time to assist with those behavioral issues.
And did you discuss with him how he was going to deal or how he did deal with those behavioral issues?
I did.
And what information did he provide as far as dealing with those behavioral issues?
He indicated that the child would be in timeouts whenever there was problems with those issues.
And did you ask him what he meant by a timeout?
I did.
What did he tell you?
He indicated that he would have the child stand for 2 to 3 hours and pray while he was standing.
I mean, 2 to 3 hours, a 3-year-old, and pray. I mean, yeah, kids, you start teaching them the idea, the concept, if you are religious, of God, but they don't really understand at that age.
Did he give you any specifics as far as body position, as far as how the child had to stand?
He did. He indicated that he would stand and place his hands in a praying position and demonstrated this by placing his hands together in front of his person.
And he indicated that initially when you spoke with him that this would go on for 2 to 3 hours at a time.
That is correct.
And while this was happening, was the victim allowed to sit down or do anything else, or did he have to stand for the entire time period?
I was told that he was required to stand for the entire time period.
How about redirection? How about that?
Did he indicate how often these timeouts were happening?
He had indicated to me that the entire purpose for him being at Mr. Vang's residence was for a timeout. So he did not indicate exact amounts of times during the day, during any given day, but indicated that the entire purpose for his being at Mr. Vang's apartment was as a punishment.
Did he give some timeframes such as, was it the timeouts were the majority of the time, or whether it was a shorter amount of time?
The majority of the time.
Did you also talk to him about other disciplinary tactics such as cold water?
I did.
And what did he tell you about cold water?
I had asked him if the timeouts don't work, what process he would use for addressing the behavioral issues. He indicated to me that he was not sure why. However, the child did not like cold water, so he would give an ultimatum to the child that essentially asking him if he wanted cold water.
And he had indicated that that was something the child did not like or was concerned about?
That is correct.
Did you also talk to him about other care of the child as far as physical needs such as diapers, food, those types of things?
I did.
I'm going to start specifically with diapers. Was victim child 1 potty trained at this point in time?
Mr. Vang advised that he was not.
Did he indicate whether he was using diapers?
He did.
And did he indicate how often those were changed?
Mr. Vang advised that he changed the child's diaper at least one time per day.
He didn't indicate that he would change every time he was soiled, it was just one time per day on average.
That is correct.
Did you also talk to him about any food needs?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
Mr. Vang advised that the child was still bottle fed, and he was attempting to get the child to move to more solid or adult style food.
Child is bottle fed, and you're treating this kid like unbelievable.
During the time that he was with him.
Would he withhold any food from him?
He indicated that he was withholding milk.
Did you also talk to him about other typical child needs such as activity or toys,
I did.
those types of things? And what did he tell you about those typical child needs?
He was asked about toys in the residence. Mr. Vang indicated that there was one toy in the residence, which was given to the child at Christmas time, and he had helped put that toy together. However, during this stay, because it was a punishment, he was not allowed to play with that toy.
So between that February 12th time period and when you were speaking with him, the victim was never allowed to utilize the one toy that he did have at the residence.
The one toy that he did have, he couldn't play with for days at a time, wasn't allowed to watch TV, anything. Well, I mean, what do you expect a 3-year-old to do?
Correct?
That is correct.
And did Mr. Vang indicate a reason why he wasn't allowed to do that normal activity?
Again, he identified that his time with Mr. Vang during those weeks was as a punishment.
And specifically the timeouts?
Correct.
I have nothing else of this particular witness.
Attorney Hogan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, did you review anything prior to your testimony here this morning?
The criminal complaint.
And that was the only thing that you reviewed?
That is correct.
And when you say the criminal complaint, do you mean the original or the amended criminal complaint?
The amended.
Now, you testified that Mr. Vang told you he started caring for victim child 1 on February 12th,
That is correct.
and it was supposed to last until February 23rd.
That is correct.
And when you responded, that was February, I believe you said 20th?
That is correct.
With respect to Mr. Vang talking to you about the timeouts, you indicated Mr. Vang told you the child had to stand in the corner or stand for 2 to 3 hours.
That is correct.
Did you ask him whether the child was unable to stand for the 2 to 3 hours?
We did pose that question to him, and he had identified that it was not like the child was having trouble standing during those timeframes.
So Mr. Vang told you that the alleged victim, child 1, didn't have trouble standing for 2 to 3 hour periods.
He did not indicate either way.
And you testified Mr. Vang had alleged victim, child 1, pray during those 2 to 3 hour timeouts.
Correct.
You testified that Mr. Vang said he would use the ultimatum of cold water, if I heard you right.
That is correct.
And did Mr. Vang ever tell you he used cold water in any way?
During my interview, he denied that.
So he denied actually using cold water?
That is
Hey, guidance, the interpreter is for one of the family members. One of the family members.
correct.
And did he tell you what this ultimatum of giving cold water actually meant he would do?
He did not.
So it's not as though he told you it meant I was going to pour cold water on you.
He did not mention that.
And you said Mr. Vang told you alleged child victim 1 didn't like cold water.
That is correct.
Did he explain that more as to what he meant by that?
He did not.
You testified Mr. Vang told you alleged child victim 1 was not potty trained
That is correct.
and that he was still in diapers.
Correct.
And I think your testimony was Mr. Vang told you he changed the diaper at least once per day.
Correct.
And did you ask him if there were days where he changed the diaper more than one time?
I do not recall.
You had spoken to Mr. Vang actually at this apartment where this all allegedly occurred.
Correct.
Did you see more diapers at that location?
I did not.
Are you aware if diapers were located at that residence?
I'm aware that a search was conducted of the apartment, however, I am not aware of the contents of that search.
And you testified Mr. Vang told you alleged child victim 1 was still bottle fed,
That is correct.
but that he would try to get alleged child victim 1 to eat more solid foods.
That is correct.
Did he tell you whether alleged child victim 1 actually ate more solid foods?
So this is one of the detectives that was at Jessie Vang's house. And he's on the
He
bench
did.
recalling.
He did tell you that
What
alleged
happened that
child
day?
victim 1 ate more solid foods?
He indicated that the child would eat with him and his son while they were eating.
And so when you testified, Mr. Vang told you he withheld milk,
Yes,
he still
JPG.
provided the alleged child victim 1 other food.
That is correct.
You testified that Mr. Vang told you there was one toy in that residence.
That is correct.
Did he tell you what kind of toy that was?
And it was indicated it was something similar to a toolbox.
Did you ask him whether there were books at the residence?
We did ask him if he was allowed to participate in any other fun activities. And again, he had indicated that he was there for punishment and was not allowed to participate in those activities.
So Mr. Vang told you alleged child victim 1 wasn't allowed to engage in fun activities.
Correct.
Did you ask him whether there were books at the residence?
I don't recall if I specifically asked about books.
And did Mr. Vang mention anything about books, specifically children's books?
No.
And since you testified you are not aware of the contents of the search, you wouldn't be aware whether books were actually located at the residence, would you?
Not specifically, no.
Do you recall approximately what time in the day that you spoke with Mr. Vang at that apartment?
I believe it was around 1 p.m.
And do you recall what his demeanor was like?
Calm.
But this was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Correct.
Do you recall when the initial dispatch occurred?
I do not recall.
Do you recall if it was very shortly prior to you meeting with Mr. Vang?
There had been some time that had passed between the time I went to the apartment and the initial call.
Did you listen to any 911 call recordings?
I did.
Objection, relevance.
I think that question's fine. I'll let him answer that question. You can answer.
I did not.
Did Mr. Vang indicate whether there was anybody else in the residence during the time from February 12th to February 20th?
Yes.
And who was that?
Indicated that his son, Raiden, was in their residence as well.
So there was another child living at that residence?
Correct.
Did Mr. Vang say anything about whether alleged child victim 1 was allowed to play with the other child?
That subject was asked, and he had indicated that his son does not typically play with other people. The only contact that child victim 1 had with his son was typically when they were eating.
I have nothing further at this time.
Turn the briefing phone.
Yes, briefly, thank you. Detective, when you were talking with the defendant about these timeouts, did he indicate whether the victim would get tired or not?
Hold on. Why did it freeze?
Any follow-up to those questions,
Weird.
Attorney Moore?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Officer, you were asked a question about whether a diaper needed to be changed more than once a day. How many times would a diaper need to be changed?
Diaper should be changed every time it becomes soiled.
And if it was only soiled one time?
If it's only soiled one time, I can see where it would only be changed one time.
Now, you testified, I think that's in relation to alleged child victim 1 not being potty trained, right?
Can you restate that?
Sure. And when you were talking with Mr. Vang about diapers, that was in relation to alleged child victim 1 not being potty trained.
Correct.
And did Mr. Vang tell you whether alleged child victim 1 was ever able to use a toilet?
I don't know that we asked that question.
So alleged child victim 1 could have used the toilet sometimes.
Potentially.
And on redirect, you testify that Mr. Vang told you alleged child victim 1 would become tired from standing.
Correct.
Did he tell you how alleged child victim 1 showed that he was tired from standing?
He did not.
So he just assumed alleged child victim 1 would become tired from standing.
I don't know what he would have been thinking at that time.
I have nothing further.
Any follow-up to those, Attorney Moore?
Not for this witness, Judge.
All right, Detective, you can step down. Thank you.
The state would be calling Lieutenant Glazer.
Lieutenant, you can come on up to the witness stand here, remain standing, raise your right hand, the clerk will administer the oath.
There he is, Jessie Vang, sitting in the orange, obviously.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Be seated. State your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Jacob Glazer, last name spelling Glaser.
Go ahead, Attorney Moore.
Your Honor, just for the record, there are gonna be 2 exhibits that I'm gonna be using with Lieutenant Glazer. I previously shown them to counsel prior to the hearing. I'm gonna be asking, once they're moved into evidence, that they be sealed in the record and only accessible by the court and counsel.
Attorney Hogan?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have an opportunity to review both of those photographs prior to court. We would have no objection to the court sealing those and allowing access only for the court and the attorneys.
All right. So the court will grant that request and then just, I guess, caution. The lieutenant
Exactly,
when
Jen.
The pictures are being handed around. Try to keep them confidential.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Attorney LaBrie.
Lieutenant Glazer, how are you
Truth,
currently
Luthi.
employed?
I am currently assigned the role of Detective Lieutenant for the City of Two Rivers Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Two Rivers Police Department?
It'll be 8 years in June,
And how long have you been detective lieutenant?
1 year in May.
Were you so employed on February 20th of 2024?
I was.
And as part of your employment, did you respond to 3918 Mishicot Road, apartment 102 in the City of Two Rivers?
I did.
Did you make
Do they show those guidance? They review pictures of Elijah and timeout, so description, possible trigger. So just want to give you guys a trigger warning. They are going to show pictures.
contact with a Jessie Vang at that residence?
Yes,
And did you assist in this investigation in various aspects, not only interviews, but also reviewing some evidence?
I did.
As part of this investigation, did you also speak with a Katrina Bauer?
Yes,
And when you spoke with Katrina Bauer, did you speak specifically
Oh,
about
gotcha,
victim
got it,
child
okay.
1 and
Gotcha.
whether he was left in the care of Jessie Vang?
I did, yes.
And what did she tell you about whether victim child 1 was left in the care of Jessie Vang?
She said that victim child 1 was left in the care of Jessie Vang on February 12th, 2024.
And how long was the child supposed to be with Mr. Vang?
Until approximately February 23rd, 2024.
And she was the parent of victim child 1, correct?
Correct.
And she left him in the specific care of Mr. Vang during that time period, correct?
Yes, yes.
Did she indicate why?
From what she had told me was that it was for disciplinary actions, so that Jessie could, the defendant could instruct further on victim child 1's behavior.
And did she talk to you about discipline that was being used in Mr. Vang's home?
Yes, that was discussed.
And did she describe some of the discipline that was used?
She did.
And what did she tell you?
I was told that victim child 1, the discipline that was rolled out by the defendant was to be sat in a praying motion for extended periods, repeating a phrase that victim child 1 had to memorize. And I believe that was it.
Did you also assist in searching of that apartment in Two Rivers?
I did.
During the course of that search by law enforcement, were any dirty diapers located in the apartment that you could find?
Not to my knowledge.
During the course of this investigation, were some cell phones recovered?
Yes.
And who did law enforcement recover cell phones from?
From several different people, specifically Katrina Bauer and Jessie Vang.
And were they recovered specifically from, let's say, their person, like Ms. Bauer's person or Mr. Vang's person?
Yes.
Were those phones subsequently searched?
Yes.
And during the search of those phones, was law enforcement able to locate messaging as well as photographs?
Yes.
Have you reviewed some of those photographs and messaging?
I have.
I'm gonna start around February 13th of 2024. Were there some discussions between Ms. Bauer and Mr. Vang about her coming to his residence?
Yes, there were.
And during those discussions, was there any discussion on whether she would be able to see victim child 1 or not?
from my recollection, the defendant advised Ms. Bauer that she would not be allowed to see Elijah. Correction, victim child 1.
Did you also look in that time period on the phones for any other documentation such as photographs during that time period of February 13th or February 14th?
Yes.
And was there any, strike that,
Trigger warning.
were any photographs located on Ms. Bauer's phone from February 14th of 2024?
Yes, there was a deleted one phone.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yeah.
I'm showing you it's been marked as Exhibit 1. Can you review that, please?
Yes,
Do you recognize that?
I do.
And can you just describe for the record what that photograph depicts?
The photograph depicts victim child 1 wearing what is believed to be a black blindfold and appears to have bruising to his cheek, neck, and arm area.
And that was the photograph that was recovered from Ms. Bauer's phone, correct?
Correct.
And that photograph had been deleted, but it was able to be recovered?
Correct.
Your Honor, I move Exhibit 1 in evidence.
Any objection?
No.
Court will receive exhibit 1.
And that was taken in the early morning hours of February 14th of 2024, correct?
Correct.
Did you also review messaging from February 15th of 2024?
I did.
And was there any messaging regarding
Yes, Donna. So they took pictures. Jessie took pictures of Elijah while he was blindfolded and bruised, sick.
timeouts from February 15th?
There were.
Yes, they took pictures of
What
him.
type of messaging
Yep,
was occurring on
sure
that
did.
date?
Is it all right if I
Evil.
reviewed my criminal complaint
Evil.
for just verification on what that messaging entailed?
Would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
And just for the record, is it the amended complaint or the original criminal complaint?
The amended complaint filed 3/19/24.
Could I ask permission to allow me to review that?
Go ahead.
The messaging on February 15th depicts a picture of what appears to be victim child 1 standing in the corner wearing only a diaper. The picture appears to be taken from the defendant's bedroom located at 3918.
Did you actually review that photograph?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach? I provided you Exhibit 2. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And is that the photograph from February 15th of 2020?
Keeper, I mean, I agree I think they're both equally culpable because Katrina allowed this. She allowed this to happen and he did the actions and she was okay with it. They was sending pictures back and forth to each other.
It is.
So I think they're
And
both
that was
equally
sent from
equal.
the defendant's phone to Ms. Bauer
Correct.
at approximately 8:24 p.m.?
Correct.
And just for the record, can you describe what that photograph depicts?
It depicts what appears to be victim child 1 wearing only a diaper that appears to be full, standing in the corner near the doorway of what is the defendant's bedroom door.
And you've personally viewed this apartment, correct?
I have, yes.
Okay, so you're able to recognize what the rooms look like.
I do, and I recognize it as the defendant's room.
I move exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
We'll receive exhibit 2.
During your review of cell phone information for
I agree.
Ms. Bauer and Mr. Vang, did you review information from February 16th of 2024 into February 17th of 2024?
Yes, I did.
And on February 16th, was victim child 1 still in the care of Mr. Vang?
He was.
And in fact, he had been seen with Mr. Vang earlier in the day, correct?
Yes.
Was there a point in time when there was messaging between Ms. Bauer and Mr. Vang on the evening of February 16th of 2024?
There was.
And was Ms. Bauer coming to the Two Rivers area that evening?
Yes, she was.
And did she send any messaging as far as victim child 1 in the evening hours while she was on her way?
She did. She told the defendant to put him to sleep.
And looking at the cell phone information, were you able to see where Ms. Bauer's cell phone and Mr. Vang's cell phones traveled the early morning hours of February 17th of 2024?
Yes,
And did Ms. Bauer come to Mr. Vang's apartment?
she does.
And do the two cell phones leave together?
They do.
And approximately what time do they leave? Do they know?
12:30 a.m. on the 17th.
And where do they travel to?
The city of Manitowoc.
And specifically, where does Mr. Vang's phone travel to?
Saucy's Bar in the city of Manitowoc.
Was law enforcement able to make contact with individuals from Saucy's Bar?
Yes,
And was Mr. Vang seen there?
he was.
And did he have a child with him at that point in time?
He did not.
Did Ms. Bauer's phone stay at Saucy's Bar, or did it travel somewhere else?
They traveled to a quick trip located near Calumet Avenue in the city of Manitowoc.
Was law enforcement able to obtain video from the quick trip?
Yes,
And when the video was obtained, was there any video that included Ms. Bauer?
yes.
Was it inside the store or outside the store? Or both?
Both outside the store and inside the store.
And when that video was reviewed with her, inside the store, was a child with her?
No.
And when the video was reviewed, when she was sitting in a vehicle in the parking lot, was a child observed with her?
There was no child with her.
Was there a point in time when Ms. Bauer went back to the area where Mr. Vang was at the bar?
There was.
And did both of them travel back to Two Rivers?
They did.
Roughly, when did they get back to the Two Rivers area?
Based off their cell phone data, it shows the two of them meeting back up at approximately 1:55 in the morning and then traveling back to the city of Two Rivers.
So with travel time from Manitowoc to Two Rivers, it's after 2 a.m. by the time they get back to the apartment, correct?
Correct.
Did law enforcement try and determine if anyone else was caring for victim child 1 during that time period between 12:30 a.m. and approximately 2 a.m.?
Yes.
And during that time period, was law enforcement ever able to find anyone who was caring for that victim child 1?
We were not.
Did Ms. Bauer stay in Two Rivers or did she leave?
She left.
And she left in the early morning hours?
Yes, in the early morning hours, approximately 5 in the morning on the 17th.
And she was traveling back towards the Wisconsin Dells area, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, there was a point in time when she was stopped, correct?
Yes.
And were any children in her vehicle when she was stopped?
No.
Did you review any messaging between Mr. Vang and Ms. Bauer related to February 17th of 2024?
I did.
And specifically, I'm going to the time period of 6:39 p.m. What was the messaging about around that time period?
I believe the messaging was about victim child 1 filling his diaper and the defendant being upset about it.
And what did you do as a result of victim child 1 filling his diaper?
I recall him stating that he had given victim child one a cold shower and that he appeared to be scared afterwards.
Tortured him with a cold shower when he was just doing something that we all do as human beings, and that, of course, kids in diapers. I mean, what more does he expect? So evil. Cold shower. Ugh.
So as a result of the overfilled diaper, he was
Thought the
given
same thing,
the cold
Shadows.
shower and that the child was scared, correct? Okay. Did you also review messaging from the time period around February 18th of 2024?
I did, yes.
Was there a discussion between Mr. Vang and Ms. Bauer about victim child one in the early morning hours?
There was.
And what was Mr. Vang telling Ms. Bauer?
As far as I referenced the exact quotes from these messages from the amended criminal complaint.
Would that refresh your memory?
It was, yes. On the morning of the 18th of February, the defendant messages Ms. Bauer telling her that to trust him and that he's going to make sure that he hates him being at his residence. And Ms. Bauer responds that she does not want him to hate the defendant, just to fear him. And the defendant responds saying, "It's okay, someone had to be the bad person." And Ms. Bauer responds by saying, "I know, but either way, he can fear you and respect you." And the defendant responds, "He did fear me, but he didn't respect me. Now I'm making him respect me."
I have nothing else at this point. Thank you.
Attorney Lewis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, did you review anything prior to your testimony here today?
Yes.
And what was that?
The amended criminal complaint, as well as additional reports that reference the criminal complaint.
So you, prior to your testimony here this morning, you reviewed other reports?
Specifically my own.
And when did you review that report?
This morning when I came in for duty.
And do you have a copy of that with you?
I do not.
And where is that report now?
That would be located at the police department in Two Rivers.
And you reviewed that in preparation for your testimony here today?
I did, yes.
Your Honor, I would ask if the state has a copy that they could provide to us.
Attorney Brink?
I don't have one in the courtroom. I would have to go upstairs to see if we can obtain one.
Is that what you want to ever do?
I can ask a couple of follow-up questions. Officer, how long is that report?
I believe it's 9 or 10 pages.
And does that detail the investigation you did on a particular day or sort of total summary?
It's more so in regards to the interviewing with Ms. Bauer.
Okay, so the report that you reviewed was in relation to your
I don't know if he's in solitary or not. Probably, because it's pretty high profile.
report regarding your interview
Probably.
with Ms. Bauer.
Correct.
I don't think he should be.
Your Honor, I would ask that we be provided a copy of that report.
All right, we'll take a minute here and allow the state to go get that.
Yeah, I have a big live coming up here in a little bit. Cripple Creek. We're going to cover a lot of stuff today on Sebastian Rogers' case, because a lot of stuff is happening.
So we'll go off the record and we'll be in recess for some period of time, I guess.
Judge, Ms. Mendetti's here. She can go up and try to
And if preferable to the court, while that's being done, I could
I don't hope it's slippery, always late. I hope it's not slippery at all. I hope it's not slippery at all, if you get my drift.
If the court wants to take a break, I'm okay with that as well.
What happened to the volume?
Judge, Ms. Vendetti's here, she can go over and kind of take a
And if preferable to the court, while that's being done, I could ask additional questions.
Oh, they muted it is what they did.
If the court wants to take a break, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah.
It'd be good to take a break anyway.
I don't hope it's slippery.
Get a turn agree on for the 11:45. So we'll take a recess and we'll take a break right now.
Makes it too easy for him.
During the break, let's go talk to my J because she's talking about the 11:45. People who are logged in for the 11:45, just sit tight for a second. It's likely this is going to get. Oh, there's Attorney Larson. Attorney Larson.
Here we go.
Okay, so my understanding is there was a short period of disconnection. Yeah, the interpretation channel got axed. Ms. Lee, are you still there? What? Can anybody hear me?
And right now, you're just a little soft on Zoom.
Judge, I can hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but
Yeah, I can.
I'm not hearing anything from the interpreter at the moment.
Okay. Ms. Lee, can you hear
Okay,
anybody?
I can hear her.
You
Yes,
can-
Mama.
You can hear her again?
Yeah.
On the record. Attorney Hogan, you've been provided a copy of that report then?
Your Honor, I would note for the record, I was provided 2 pages of the report. There was some discussion between the attorneys and the witness. The witness had clarified that he'd only reviewed essentially one paragraph that separated onto 2 pages in preparation for his testimony. That's what I was provided and had an opportunity to review.
Okay, so let's nail that part down with the witness, because the court's recollection of the witness's testimony is he reviewed a 9-page report. So I guess Attorney LaBrie, if you want to clarify that, then well, wait, Attorney Hogan, you were asking. Yeah, I guess you can go ahead and ask some questions about what you've been given, Attorney Hogan, and whether that's what he reviewed or not, and we'll go from there depending on the answers you get and what you want to tell me.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Officer, I'm looking at 2 pages of a document that I think you had an opportunity while we were on break to review. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And I believe I overheard you telling someone from the district attorney's office that there was essentially 1 paragraph and that was all you had reviewed.
Correct, yes, specifically about the photograph portion there.
Okay, prior to going on break, I'd asked you some questions about what you had reviewed,
Yes,
and you had indicated your report.
yeah, I was referencing that specific report, yes.
Okay, but you didn't indicate at that time that you'd only looked at essentially 1 paragraph of that report?
Correct.
But your testimony here right now is that you did only review that 1 paragraph?
Correct.
You testified that you assisted in the search of the apartment
Yes,
and no dirty diapers were located?
correct,
Did you locate any clean diapers?
yes.
How many?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I believe there was at least 1 box that was found.
1 box of clean diapers.
Yes,
And was there any sort of unsanitary conditions in the residence?
no,
There wasn't like garbage all over the place?
no, it was a well-kept apartment.
And were you made aware at all of when garbage had last been taken out of that residence?
I don't know for sure. There was garbage in a garbage can that was still there.
And how full was that?
Half to 3/4 full, I believe.
And did you search through that?
It was searched through. I did not do that myself.
Do you know if there were any soiled diapers in that garbage?
I do not believe so.
Got you.
You testified that you reviewed a number of messages and photographs on some cell phones.
Correct.
And you testified about exhibits 1 and 2, and those were both photographs. Were both of those photos located on Katrina Bauer's phone?
No.
Which was exhibit 1 located on Katrina Bauer's phone?
Yes.
And exhibit 2 that was located on Jessie Vang's phone?
It was located on Facebook Messenger, sent from the defendant, yes.
Okay. And exhibit 1 was actually in the photo section of the phone?
Correct, extracted from Ms. Bauer's phone.
And you testified in exhibit 1 that alleged child victim 1 is wearing a black blindfold?
Correct.
And there's some bruising that you're able to observe?
Correct.
And were you able to determine when that photo was actually taken?
Yes, based off of the timestamp from the phone extraction
And when was that?
on the 14th, early morning hours.
And that was actually taken on Katrina Bauer's phone?
It was, and it showed GPS location of the defendant's apartment.
And in exhibit 1, you can see alleged child victim's sort of side face.
Yes, the right side.
And I believe his right arm, part of his right arm.
Correct.
I believe exhibit 1 shows alleged child victim 1 with a blanket
Yes,
on some type of mattress or bedding of some sort.
correct.
So not laying on the floor at all,
Correct.
covered up with a blanket partially.
Yep.
With respect to exhibit 2, you testified that shows alleged child victim 1 standing
Yes,
from a distance away from the camera.
correct.
And you testified that alleged child victim 1 is wearing only a diaper.
Yes,
And that was taken, the photo was taken February 14th, I think you said?
this is the photo of the child victim one standing in the corner.
Correct.
I don't believe that was the date that photo was taken.
Do you recall the date that that photograph was taken?
I don't have the origin date of that photograph. I just am aware of when it was sent via Facebook Messenger.
And what date was it sent?
That was sent on, is it all right if I refresh my memory with the criminal complaint for that photograph?
If that would refresh your recollection.
Thank you. That would be February 15th.
February 15th was the date it was sent?
Correct.
And you testified that that was sent on Facebook Messenger from Jessie Vang's Facebook to Katrina Bauer's?
Correct, yes.
And in that photograph, you can see alleged child victim 1's skin.
Yes.
And are you able to observe any sort of bruising or other injuries in that photograph?
Can I refresh my memory by examining that exhibit again?
If you want to take a look at exhibit number 2.
I cannot.
You cannot locate any bruising or other injuries in exhibit 2?
Correct.
And are you able to tell if that photograph was taken in the daytime or at nighttime at all?
It appears to be daytime.
Now, you testified that you were able to observe some phone activity and location data from some cell phones in the early morning hours of February 17th.
Correct.
And I believe you said Katrina Bauer's phone shows her phone arriving at Mr. Vang's residence in the early morning hours,
Yes,
and then leaving that location at the same time Mr. Vang's phone was leaving.
correct.
You testified that you observed some video surveillance from that date,
Yes,
and that was from Quick Trip.
yes, it was.
And you saw Katrina Bauer go into a Quick Trip.
Yes.
Were you able to observe inside of the vehicle,
Yes.
like the entirety of the inside of the vehicle?
Based off of different frames we were able to take and look inside the vehicle to observe all angles.
And you testified that the phones got back to Two Rivers at some point after 2 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
And so between approximately 12:30 in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning, through your investigation, there was no evidence of alleged child victim 1 having left the residence in that time frame.
Correct.
And I believe you testified that law enforcement was unable to find anyone caring for alleged child victim 1 during that time.
Correct.
And did you ask Katrina Bauer about that time frame?
We did, yes.
And what did she tell you about that time frame?
She was not able to give us a lot of detail on that time frame initially, as that was, she declined to initially give officers details regarding that time.
Did you or other law enforcement ask Mr.
Yeah, Katrina actually told Jessie not to work with authorities. Told the mother of Elijah, told Jessie not to work with authorities. Sick.
Vang about that time frame?
I specifically did not.
Had you taken other steps in attempting to identify anyone else who may have been at the residence during that time frame?
Yes.
And what kind of steps were those?
There were several interviews that were conducted through many of the other residents that are located in the apartment complex, which the defendant resides in. We've gone through, again, many phones and Facebook Messenger to determine if there was any care or conversation of care to be had during those times.
Were you able to determine whether there was any other person in the residence at that time?
We were not.
Are you aware that Mr. Vang has other children?
Yes.
Specifically, are you aware that Mr. Vang has a son that lives at that residence?
Yes.
And were you able to determine whether Mr. Vang's son was at the residence during that time?
It was assumed.
And so there was at least an assumption on law enforcement's part that there was at least another human being at the apartment.
Yes.
You testified that there was some messages from later on the date of February 17th that you reviewed.
Yes.
And one of them was with respect to alleged child victim 1 filling his diaper.
Correct.
And that Mr. Vang had messaged that made him upset.
Yes.
And that Mr. Vang's message said that he had given alleged child victim 1 a cold shower.
Correct.
Did you or other law enforcement ask Mr. Vang about that message?
This was after he had already been taken into custody, that was determined.
Do you have any evidence that Mr. Vang in fact gave alleged child victim 1 a cold shower on that day?
Other than the messages, we do not.
So it's just a message that Mr. Vang had said this is what he did, but you don't know if that actually happened.
Correct.
You testified that there were some messages in the early morning hours on February 18th.
Yes.
And something along the lines of Mr. Vang saying that he was gonna make alleged child victim one fear and respect him.
Correct.
In any of the messages that you reviewed, did you review any messages of Mr. Vang saying anything in relation to he was going to physically hurt alleged child victim one?
To my recollection, no.
Any messages that he was attempting to not provide food to alleged child victim one?
No messages.
Any messages related to anything specific about physically harming alleged child victim number one?
No.
I have nothing further at this time.
Attorney Green.
Thank you. Lieutenant Glazer, the photograph in Exhibit 2, you see the back of victim child one, correct?
Correct.
You cannot see the front, the face, the neck, anything like that, correct?
Correct.
You can't see the elbow area that's depicted in Exhibit 1, correct?
Correct.
So the only thing you're able to view is the back of victim child one, the back of his legs, and part of the back of his arms, correct?
Correct.
Whereas in Exhibit 1, you can see the injuries to the neck, the face, and the arm, correct?
Correct.
You were asked about February 17, 2024, that it was assumed that the defendant's son was in the residence during those early morning hours of 12:30 in the morning, correct?
Correct.
That individual, the son, can he care for another child?
No.
Is he even able to speak?
He is nonverbal.
Would he be able to, based upon his limitations, provide care for anyone else?
No.
And you were just asked some questions about the messaging from the 17th, about the cold shower. And that messaging indicated that victim child one was clean after the shower, but also that he was scared, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing else, thank you.
Any follow-up to those, Attorney Hood?
No.
Lieutenant, you can step down. I'll take Exhibits 1 and 2 from you. Any other testimony, Attorney Green?
No, Judge, thank you.
Any testimony, Attorney Hogan?
No.
Argument, Attorney Green?
Your Honor, the state would move for bind over. I think we have sufficiently shown probable cause that a crime was committed and that it's probable that this defendant committed it. We have a specific time period in February of 2021. These incidents occurred in the city of Two Rivers. The victim was 3 years old, so we would be under
Exactly,
the age
Ashley.
of 6 that is required as far as the charging. We have multiple acts that could fit under the chronic neglect. There were multiple timeouts. We have those documented by the defendant's statements, photographs, as well as the messaging. There was also concern over proper physical care as far as the diaper. There's statements regarding potentially changed once a day. We're not finding dirty diapers in the garbage, but we are finding messaging about the child overflowing his diaper, and the photograph which shows a full one.
Congratulations,
The
Ms.
cold
Kirby.
water threats as well as utilization during the cold shower, which left the child scared. And furthermore, the child was left alone on that February 17th date without supervision for over an hour. I think at this point, at a preliminary hearing, all inferences go to the state. I think we have sufficiently shown probable cause.
He didn't just walk out.
Attorney Hogan?
Your Honor, we're going to ask that the court not find probable cause with respect to the February 17th incident of alleged child victim one being left home without no supervision. I don't believe that the elements have been met at that time. The testimony is that the child's mother was actually at the location, and ended up leaving with Mr. Vang. I think given that the child's mother was there at the time, possibly was not Mr. Vang then being a person responsible for the welfare of the child during that time frame, as the victim's mother was present at that time and location. However, even assuming the court finds that at that time he was a person still responsible for the welfare of the child, there's just as much evidence to suggest that he was supervised as unsupervised. I think the testimony was we were unable to locate anyone who had been supervising the child or been at the residence during that time frame. And law enforcement made other assumptions as to other people who had been at the residence during that time frame. With respect to the condition of the apartment, the testimony is that there wasn't any unsanitary conditions at the residence, that it was generally a well-upkept apartment, that when the search of the apartment was conducted, it was generally clean. One of the garbages was about half full. The officer testified that he wasn't aware whether any dirty diapers were located in that garbage. Even assuming that the photograph shows in exhibit number 2 a soiled diaper, the testimony is that a photograph was taken days prior to the search being conducted.
Exactly, criminal med.
There is testimony that Mr. Vang admitted to changing the diaper at least once per day. No evidence to suggest that alleged child victim 1's diaper necessarily needed to be changed more often than that.
Please.
Or that even if it did, that Mr. Vang didn't change it more than once. We have the testimony suggesting that at least once per day, which leads to the reasonable inference that on more than once per day it was also changed. So I think based on the testimony presented today, there is not probable cause to believe that Mr. Vang committed the offense charge, and we would ask that the court dismiss.
The court's charge at the preliminary hearing stage is to determine if there's probable cause to believe a felony was committed and the defendant committed it. When looking at the testimony in giving the reasonable inferences, finding the reasonable inferences in favor of the state. What I think kind of ties it all together here is testimony regarding the text messages from February 18th, and specifically the defendant messaging Ms. Bauer that I'm going to make sure he hates me and being here. The message that he did fear me and respect me. He didn't respect me, now I'm making him respect me. That tells me that the reasonable inference there is that Mr. Vang is carrying out actions that are designed to instill fear in the child. He acknowledges as much. I don't think one can reasonably make the argument that Mr. Vang is not engaging in conduct which could result in emotional or mental harm to the child when he's specifically stating he's doing it in order to get the child to fear. Like I say, that's what ties it together. But the testimony in the record today,
Stephanie.
Specifically,
That's right, Pamela.
Exhibits 1 and 2. It's full of evidence that supports finding probable cause here. So the court will find that there's probable cause to believe a felony was committed and Mr. Vang committed it. I'll bind him over for further proceedings. Is this state anticipating filing an information with charges that mirrors that in the amended complaint?
Your Honor, I'm asking for an arraignment date. I don't need a long amount of time.
All right.
I'm fine with Zoom that assists defense counsel too.
I'm out next week and parties have time on the 16th.
Depending on time of day, yes.
I would hope 10:30.
April 16th at 10:30?
Yeah.
I actually believe council and I are in a motion hearing at that point.
No.
It's in branch one though, so we're,
Do you anticipate, how long do you anticipate that taking?
I think less than a half hour, correct?
I have pleading disco at 11, that we can either do this on the front end of, if you're done before the half hour's up, or as soon as that's finished, because I don't think it'll take a whole half hour.
I would say it would probably be safer on the back end because that motion is a motion to dismiss and then a prelim.
All right,
So if we did like 11:15.
Look at him.
okay.
Pitiful.
Can you guys do 11:15?
You know what? He's probably keeping that ponytail as a handle because he's in prison.
That works.
Just saying.
11:15 works.
So we'll set the arraignment for April 16th at 11:15.
So
Just 1 second here. Attorney Hogan, you also had well, your client also filed a bond modification request. Did you follow up with one of your own or not?
I hope he gets it 10 times as worse as he
He
did
did not.
Elijah.
I thought I mentioned it at the
child.
last hearing. If I did not, I apologize. At this time, we were withdrawing that request.
All right, so good. Anything else for the record then today, Attorney LeBrie?
No, Judge.
Attorney Hogan?
No, thank you.
Then we're adjourned. Thank you for everyone's patience.
Walk away, little guy. Walk
So
away.
the folks who were logged on for Vang, that hearing's concluded.
Look at there. There's only like 3 hairs in that. Don't get it. He's probably got his hair pulled out. Evil. Evil. It's a sorry, weak person. Yes, it is. He needs to tell us where Elijah is. That's what he needs to do. Tell us where that baby is. Especially you, Katrina. Half of your DNA. Insane. Insane. Guys, that is that. I wanted to bring that to you. I will be live at 6 o'clock Eastern this evening. I may go live at 5. It just depends, 5 or 6, but I've just got it as 6 right now. So just make sure you hit that reminder button. I'll be streaming from J for A and Clutch Them Pearls. Most people are coming over to Clutch Them Pearls right now, but either or, as long as we get the word out. So I will see you guys later on this evening. We got a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about. Okay, I'll try 5, Miss Gervie. To talk about this evening. It's going to be probably a good 4-hour live. And we're going to take calls this evening as well. So make sure you hit that reminder button and hit all of your subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure it's on all. That way you get all of the notifications. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate you. I'll see you guys in a little bit. See you later. Bye-bye.